franktalks.com.
Relationships, sex, passion. With Dr. Lori Petito. Hear the show live weeknights 10 to 11 on CJAD 800.
Welcome to Passion, a show all about love, sex, and relationships. I'm Dr. Lori Petito. Tonight, it is our regular monthly feature we call Dating Dilemmas. I am joined by Frank Kermit, who is a dating coach of franktalks.com. He's been joining us for quite a few years now, actually, and he's a best-selling author of several books on the subject of dating. He's also the relationship columnist for the West End Times. So if you are single and you have questions about dating, meeting people, how to be successful, how to understand the genders, how to pick up whatever, tonight's the night. 514-790-0991. You can text us at 514-800. And tonight we're going to focus a little bit on how to spot a liar or a manipulator, and basically how not to get played, how to spot the red flags. Welcome to the program.
Thanks, Dr. Lori.
Okay, Frank, before we go on, you're starting a support group, so I just want to put that out there, and we'll say it several times because it's a support group for separated and divorced men, which I think is really, really important. Why are you starting this? What's the raison d'être of this?
It basically started when a number of different clients were relating the same problems. These were men who are alone, feeling very isolated, feeling very abandoned. They're going through a separation, they're going through a divorce, or they're recently divorced, and they lose whatever social circles they had. And I want to set up a little support group for these men so that they can network amongst themselves. They can learn to be there for each other. Nobody will be forced to talk about their situation. Some people might want to keep it private or confidential. Mm-hmm. But for those people who don't want to talk about that, you'll be able to talk about something else. The idea is that there'll be one place you can go to. I want to make this weekly. If there's enough people who want to participate, I'll even hold 2 or 3 meetings a week. Let's see how many people show up this Friday night.
Okay, so it's Friday night from 7 to 10 p.m., so 3 hours. And plus, I imagine you'll be giving them a little bit of coaching as you go along there.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And how to get there. So it's a support group for men who are separated, divorced, or brokenhearted. The cost is $10. That's it, from 7 to 10 p.m. For more information, go to franktalks.com. And, you know, there's not too many support groups for men, I have to say. Mm-hmm. That's something that's lacking.
Someone once told me that they were looking at some support groups, and this is one of my clients again. He says that a number of support groups, after they get to over 100 members, have to shut down, saying we're not taking any more members. It's too much. So there's obviously
a need. Right, there is a need. franktalks.com for information for that support group for separated and divorced men. Now we want to talk about manipulators, liars, how to spot them when you are dating. Have you ever dated a manipulator or a liar? We want to hear your stories. What are some of the ways you can spot a liar and a manipulator? 514-790-0991. Actually, here's a question for you, Frank, because we're opening up the lines for whatever question as well on dating. Should a 59-year-old man date a 28-year-old woman?
Are you talking about should they have a serious relationship or should they date in terms of, as long as they're both consenting adults of sound mind, it's completely up to them. And if they're okay with it and they're prepared to deal with the stigmas involved,
that's it.
Then,
right.
Yeah, it's fine as long as everybody involved is consenting.
And that it's not a power dynamic. In other words, you're not her boss. That's another thing. Like, you're not in a position of power.
Well, exactly. But in this case, if they're both adults, adults do meet in the workplace. The question is...
Yeah, but it's not ethical when a boss dates a... I mean, there's ethics involved, too.
There's some
and
ethics.
There's an inherent imbalance.
There is also the possibility that the person who is dating their boss is doing it for their own selfish reasons. Career advancement or certain opportunities. In today's age, she could be the boss at 29. He could be the worker at 59.
That's true too. That's true too. Let's not stereotype is what you're trying to tell me.
There you go.
All right, so there you go. There's Frank's answer. As long as you're prepared to deal with whatever stigma is thrown your way, you are two consenting adults. Your choice, your decision. 514-790-0991 if you would like to call in with your thoughts, or at 514-800 if you'd like to text in any questions or your story. We're talking about how to spot a manipulator, dating a manipulator. Of course, it's not always easy to know. Actually, it's very difficult to know when you're dating a manipulator, because manipulators are really good at manipulating.
Exactly. Liars know how to lie, especially if they're career liars. One of the reasons I wanted to do this topic this month is because of something that came to my attention earlier. Earlier this month, a pickup artist and seduction coach set up a little scam.
No.
He got these girls that he's with, handed them his contact information and said, when guys try to pick you up, give them my contact information so they'll be texting me. So these girls would go out, and when a guy tried to pick them up, she would not give her contact information, but his. What he would do is he would pretend to be a girl.
Mm-hmm.
So when all these guys started writing in, he would initially start flirting with them, and then just got more rude, hurling insults, racial slurs, getting abusive, just to get these guys to react. And these guys have no idea that they're talking to some pickup or seduction coach. Mm-hmm. They think that they're talking to the girl that they met on the street and exchanged some information with. Then this guy posts up a blog and shows the various text messages to say, look how this guy reacted to this, look how this guy reacted to this. And I'm thinking, these guys couldn't have possibly known that they were being scammed.
Right.
For some other guy's entertainment, I think there's probably some other reason that he might have, chosen to spend so much time on a project where he would have to pretend to be a female flirting with other men. That's neither here nor there. But how do you defend yourself when you're being scammed like this? And the answer is, you got to stick to your principles. You got to stick to your attitude of, there's only so much I'm going to tolerate, and when somebody gets abusive with me or somebody starts, misbehaving,
crossing the line,
I could lose my cool. I can go ahead and text back. I can start swearing. I can start getting angry, or I could just choose to walk away. And that's the best way to not get scammed by anybody. That's the best way, regardless of whether or not it really was women who were behaving that way or guys pretending to be women. Doesn't change how other people behave is not the issue. It's how you're going to choose to react. And some of the guys were smart about it and were able to cut it out. Other guys just got really, really revved up. They got their buttons pressed, reacted in a poor way. So the question comes up with, how do you avoid getting scammed?
That's tough, because scam artists or people who do this regularly and like you say, seasoned liars or professional liars, basically, they do this all the time. And, most of us are not thinking that most of us are trusting. I think the majority of us are trusting in the good of others. And they know how to pick us, the ones who are, who are the trusting and who believe in the good of others. And they get scammed. Listen, I've been scammed by clients. Like, it's not, it's not just in relationships. It's people pulling on heartstrings and people pulling on different, because they know that they can do it, and then they manipulate situations.
One of the character traits of someone who is a true manipulator is that they believe in their own lies so much. They don't just tell a lie saying, I know it's a lie. They truly believe in their own lies, that they're so convincing that the average person says, well, but they're speaking with so much conviction. I must be the one who's wrong.
I must be the one who's crazy.
Yes.
Right?
Which is that's actually a sign. If you're ever walking around thinking, I must be crazy in this situation, I must be doing something wrong. If you start thinking that you're crazy, you're dating a manipulator.
Right. We'll talk about what is a scam, because somebody wants the definition of a scam, and how to spot a manipulator, especially in the dating world, most importantly, is what we're focusing on tonight. You're listening to Passion on CJD 800.
You're listening to Passion with Dr. Lori Bettito on CJAD 800.
Dating dilemmas tonight on the program. Frank Kermit is in studio with us. We're talking about how to spot a manipulator, how not to get played. Someone wants to know, Frank, please define scam, especially in dating. I mean, I think most of us understand being scammed in different areas, but being scammed, being played for, being played with, how would we define that in the dating world?
I would define a scam as any situation where the person involved would not choose to be there if they knew the truth. And if someone is in a position to tell the truth and holds back on that in order to keep the other person involved, that's a scam.
Interesting. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. If you have questions about how to spot a manipulator or your own thoughts, your own experiences about having been scammed in a relationship or especially in dating, and we see scams happening in online dating. There are scams that happen with, I've heard of people scammed from getting contacted from people in other countries and please send me money so I can come and be with you, and now I need a little bit more money. And
that happened to me. I didn't send the money, but I remember being contacted, and because of what I know in terms of dating and seduction, my history and my past, I just remember looking at the message that I received from some woman in another country, and I'm thinking, a woman doesn't talk like this. A woman just doesn't communicate in this way, saying these things. So I would respond back saying, I want to see how far this can go.
Right.
And I would respond back by saying, tell me about your favorite pet. Tell me about this and that. Send me some more pictures of you. And every time I would write back, I remember thinking through that process how eloquently those emails were written. Because despite all of my knowledge, even I started to feel some sense of attachment. Even I started to feel that my emotional needs were being addressed by the way these emails were written. But I still harped on, no, I know what the rules are, regardless of how I feel. I still asked, and I says, there's a picture of you with that dog. Was that your dog? And why don't you send me some pictures of when it was a puppy?
Couldn't.
And they couldn't. They kept sending me other pictures, and I started realizing this is not the same girl as the other pictures. I said, really? You look so different. Were you younger? Were you? I was asking for these type of detailed information, and
I bet you it was going on so long that they gave up on you.
No, what actually happened is they finally. I said, yes, this is so wonderful, but tell me more about you. Within, let's say, a week, came the request for $5,000, and
for what?
Because something had happened in their family, and I was their only hope. And once this was settled, she could travel to be with me, and I knew this was a scam. And so I finally said this. I says, my heart also races for you. And okay, who is this really? And then I basically went on to give that person a lecture, whoever it was. Well, the next thing I know, I'm on the receiving end of spam.
Really?
Spam. It was so bad, I had to change my email account.
Really? Well, that situation has happened to a lot of people. And I think rule number 1, never send money. Anybody who's going to ask you for money is scamming you. Anybody who's going to ask you for money. That is a huge red flag.
Look, that's a red flag even when you're meeting face to face and the person is promising all kinds of wonderful adventures and trips and excitement and sex. Only if, you can take me on some kind of a lavish adventure and spend all kinds of money. And also, I need a loan to pay off this thing, and can you help me out? And people feel that, I don't want to say no. Things are going so well, and I'm so hopeful.
Right. But once money's involved, that's when you know.
Yeah.
That's a big red flag right there. Never, ever give up money.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people have been scammed that way. And I don't know if anybody would call in and tell us their story, because I know the people who have been scammed like that feel quite humiliated by it.
A lot of embarrassment there. How could I have been so silly? How could I have made that mistake? The fact is, you made the mistake because you were going on a lot of goodwill. You were so hopeful.
That's right.
You were hoping that...
And they were that good.
Yes.
Like, let's not forget, these are professional manipulators. Like,
Yes.
they do this all the time. So they're really, really, really good. 514-800 if you want to text us your story, or you can call us at 514-790-0991. I want to talk about how the signs that you are actually dating a manipulator or a liar, and that's something that in the dating world you really have to pay attention. And when there are red flags, you cannot ignore those red flags, and some of the more important ones have to do with who you're with, and we're going to talk about that. And and the manipulator can be a female or a male, so it's not just a woman to man thing, but also in the reverse. It can happen certainly in the reverse as well. So we'll talk about that and any other dating questions that you have here for Frank Kermit, our dating coach, on dating dilemmas. You're listening to Passion on CJAD 800.
You're listening to Passion with Dr. Lori Petito on CJAD 800.
Dating dilemmas tonight on Passion. So, the signs you are with a liar, a manipulator. Frank Kermit is here to answer those questions. He can be reached, by the way, at franktalks.com. So what are some of the signs that here you are dating a manipulator, and how would you see it right away? Like, is this something you can spot right away? Because, when you see a manipulator's a manipulator, like they can get under your skin pretty quickly.
For some things you will be able to spot right away. It's all about your own personal boundaries and whether or not the person is behaving in accordance with or against your own personal boundaries. Other things, you're only going to see it over time. One of the ones we already talked about is you think you are going crazy. And that's only going to happen over time, because part of being a manipulator is to undermine the other person's confidence.
Okay.
And there are ways that no matter what question a person asks or answers, there's ways to always be negative about it, constantly to undermine and put you down.
Also, I've heard, a story just the other day where this woman was telling me that her partner would say things like, "I never said that. You imagine that. I never did that." And like caught with his hand in the cookie jar. No, what you're seeing is not what you're seeing, is basically what he's saying.
Yeah.
And she's like, wait a second, and so convincing, that she said, did I see it? Did I not see it? Am I started questioning her own sanity?
One of the mentors that I had many, many years ago, who I don't associate with now, his attitude was always, it wasn't me. No matter what you saw me there, it wasn't me. And I said, how can you possibly stick to that story? I mean, she saw you with the other girl. Wasn't me.
Right.
And he says it with such conviction that you start thinking, maybe it wasn't him.
That's right. Exactly. That's exactly it.
And
yeah. That's a very flagrant, obvious.
And the only way to combat that, keep a journal.
Look for incongruencies, huh?
Actually, I was working for a manipulator once, in this contract I had, and my boss would tell me things like, for this project, you need to include these documents. Okay, I would do it, and then 2 weeks later, when she's looking through it, why did you include these documents here? And this went on for so long, I just started to feel, look, I must be really incompetent at this job. My self-esteem was shot. And then somebody had told me, dude, keep a journal. So I started keeping a journal, and within a month, I found that she was 1 minute telling me one thing, the next minute telling me the opposite. And I finally called her on it once. And initially she was like, oh, you're so right. But when she found out I was keeping a journal, keeping a log, she immediately attacked it. She deleted some of my files just to make sure that there was no track record of what she said that I couldn't, what was and was not supposed to do.
Wow.
It was that bad. So if you really want to track a manipulator, you're starting to think you're crazy, keep a journal. It will be revealed. Keeping that journal will be revealed, because there's no way that you can falsify something you wrote in a journal 3 weeks ago.
And also you end up keeping track of inconsistencies, right? Because the person tells you one thing one day and then tells you something else 3 weeks later, or tells you, no, that didn't happen, when in fact, of course, it happened.
One of the signs of an emotional abuser is that they'll change their argument so that they can be right in the moment. And they'll argue the complete opposite position that they took just some time ago.
Right.
Because their goal is to just beat you down and win the argument right now. And even if you say, but you said the complete opposite the last time, it was a different situation, it was a different context.
Right.
No, it wasn't.
Right. And it still makes you think you're crazy. It still
Yes.
makes you think like somehow, yeah. And you feel that way, you know you're with a manipulator, and you run. You run. 514-790-0991. You can text us at 514-800-NEWS coming up, and then more with Frank Kermit here on Dating Dilemmas on CJD 800.
Good evening, it's 10:30. I'm Margot Edwards. Here's what's making news right now. A 17-year-old teen is now looking for another summer job. Megan Moran tells CTV she quit working at an IGA grocery store on Sir Wilfrid Laurier Boulevard in St. Lambert because her employer told her she shouldn't speak English. Moran, who left her position on principle, says she should be able to speak any language she wants when on break and may take her case to the Human Rights Commission. A woman has filed a complaint with the Administrative Judicial Council after the presiding judge in a rental board case repeatedly referred to her as a man. Tommy Sojourner says the judge continuously used male pronouns despite being corrected by both her and the landlord's representative. Sojourner, who identifies herself as a black lesbian woman, says the experience left her dignity in tatters. And you want to be a cook? A cook starting to go through your recipe books? Well, auditions are underway for a new reality show, Master Chef Canada. Eligible contenders must be amateur chefs, at least 19 years old by September 1st, and be a Canadian citizen or permanent resident. Applicants can submit a photo and video online by July 25th. More news, including top experts investigating Palatucci name at CJAD.com. From the CJAD 800 Traffic Center, here is Kira Yeager.
Well, I have some very unfortunate news. We have an accident actually out there at this time, and it's on the Mercier Bridge, southbound direction. Now, we were already dealing with a lot of congestion for the Mercier South due to road work. You're down to one lane in both the directions, and now we have an accident. It is obviously blocking the only lane available on the southbound Mercier Bridge, so very difficult for the Mercier, completely jammed up. Avoid, avoid, avoid. Do not go for the Mercier South at this time. It's just totally jammed up. Inbound Mercier also difficult. The 132 ramp onto the inbound Mercier is closed because of all that road work. 138 ramp is available. Champlain Bridge, not bad. You can take that on and off the island without any worries, although at 11 southbound Champlain does go down to just one lane. Turcotte Interchange, we do have a ramp that is closed. It is the 20 East ramp onto Decarie North, and 3 other ramps will close at 11 in the Turcotte Interchange. This summer, don't let the mosquitoes win. Fight them with a high-DEET insect repellent. Load up on Muscal Repulsive, since 1951, available at Canadian Tire. Montreal's most trusted traffic and transit every 15 minutes, only on CJAD 800. Next report is at 10:45.
The Dormez Weather Center forecast, mainly cloudy overnight, 60% chance of showers or thunderstorms and foggy, low 18, but that fog will disappear in the morning. It'll burn off. After that, mainly cloudy with a high of 25. Temperature downtown is 18 degrees. I'm Margot Edwards. Next update at 11 o'clock. Breaking news as it happens. News Talk Radio, CJAD 800.
Let us keep you informed wherever you are. On air, online, on Twitter, and now offering breaking news alerts sent right to your inbox. Your number one source for breaking news. News Talk Radio, CJAD 800. Details at CJAD.com.
LetYourSpiritGrow.com presents The Mystic Art of Reading Your Tarot Cards. Love, money, career, and travel. I'm Jade, a certified spiritual coach, ready to guide you in reading your tarot cards right now. Call Jade at 514-680-3278. That's 514-680-FAST. Fast. LetYourSpiritGrow.com. It's all you have to do.
You're listening to Passion with Dr. Lori Bettito on CJAD 800.
Dating Dilemmas tonight. At the end of every month, Frank Kermit joins us of franktalks.com. He's a dating coach. He's a relationship columnist for the West End Times. He's a best-selling author as well. And talks, he's definitely Montreal's number one dating coach. So he's the best, and he's here to answer our questions. And we're talking about manipulators and liars, how to spot them in dating. Hi, Minnie. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you.
Hi.
I just had to call in.
Okay.
I was with my ex-partner for many years. In the beginning, I didn't know that he was like that because he seemed so nice. Anyway, to bring it up to date, he was a complete liar. He always denied everything.
What did he lie about?
He lied about things that, one example was when he tried to take his car. Well, he had to give his car back or something, and he said he needed the car and that he was buying it for some other purpose, which was a lie. And it was when we went to the courthouse. He wanted me to go with him, and he lied to the court clerk. And I said, "You're lying about it." He told me to shut up or else.
He told you that?
Oh, yeah. And I was.
A guy who tells you shut up or else is the guy you run away from, by the way.
And it was a very abusive relationship. I was afraid to get out of it because of his threats.
Wow.
He lied to everybody about everything that was going on. He denied everything that I said. And when we went for therapy, he denied anything that I said about him, like it never happened.
Of course.
And of course, on the way
Made you
back,
look like crazy, right? Made you look like the
yeah,
crazy one.
I'm the one that was crazy, and he was the one that was perfect.
Right.
And to this day, he still does it with other people. And he's done it. I've seen him because...
Sounds like the typical narcissist to me.
Oh, yes, he's 1,000%. 1,000%. And it's scary.
It is scary. And also because they find women like you, the givers, you know, the ones who give, who nurture, who put other people's needs ahead of their own, who and they can spot you, you know, and it's unfortunate because you get caught in this web.
Sorry, he was all about himself. It's like you said last night. I said I have to call in.
Oh, good.
He's all about himself. He didn't care about nobody else but himself.
Yeah.
And it's like, look at me, I'm the perfect person.
Yeah.
And we got to the point where he kept me at bay in his place and threatened to kill me. That's when I had to call 911.
So you got out. Minnie, you got out.
I got out. It was a scary situation. I got out. That was the only way out to get out. Otherwise, I would probably still be with him.
I'm so happy you got out, Minnie.
No.
I'm so happy you got out.
But they gave him 2 years probation, which is nothing.
Okay, but it was smart of you to go to the police. I think that was a very wise move on your part.
I think I had no choice. It was either
right, that or possibly die, which of course is not an
life.
option. Wow, Minnie, thanks so much for sharing that with our listeners.
No, you're more
Appreciate
than
it.
welcome.
All right, bye-bye.
Thank you. Good night.
514-790-0991. And I have a feeling there are many, many, many more stories just like Minnie's.
Oh, yeah. A lot of stories from men as well of being manipulated. One of my very first clients, he was buying this girl a bus pass on the promise that eventually someday she might like him enough and want to start dating him. And for over a year, he was just buying her bus passes.
You're kidding.
And whatever else she needed.
Uh-huh.
I had another client who met a girl and who broke up with her boyfriend. They had just immigrated to this country. She was with him for about 3 years. He paid for her education. He paid for her living arrangements and so on. But lo and behold, throughout their relationship, she started working at a company with her ex-boyfriend. And then about a year or so after graduation and getting a number of other items, says, well, I reconciled with my ex-boyfriend, so we're going to be back together now.
And that was the end of that, after he'd already dumped all that money on her.
Yep.
Yeah, I've heard those stories too, unfortunately. Here's a guy who writes in, I was once accused of being a liar and manipulator once, all because I wouldn't add her to my Facebook. I wasn't being a liar. I just took 3 months off Facebook. Guess I got played.
Well, now, wait a minute. You took 3 months off Facebook? I don't understand.
In other words, he decided to take a break from Facebook. He took a complete break from Facebook, but he was being accused of being a manipulator and a liar because he wouldn't add her to Facebook, but he'd taken a break from Facebook.
Even so, if they had only been dating for 3 months, you can simply say, look, my boundary is once we've dated for 3 months or 4 months or whatever it is, that's when I'm going to add you to my Facebook. But I want to see where this goes first before I add you on.
Yeah, I guess Facebook and all that media stuff is starting to define a lot of ways of how we date.
Oh, absolutely.
and boundaries and all that stuff. 514-800 if you want to text us your story, or if you want to call in at 514-790-0991. Another area that people lie about, of course, and one that people often ask is, how do I tell? How do I know if he or she is married? Because ultimately that's a big manipulator, and what a big lie that is, right? It's one thing if you go in it saying, listen, I'm a married man or I'm a married woman. I just want to have a little fun. So if you're okay with that, fine with me. Like if you're, as long as you know that's what I want. So if the other person goes in with their eyes wide open, say, okay, I'm having an affair with a married person. Of course, I'm not saying that's okay. I'm just saying that if it's out in the open. But what if you're dating someone and you have no clue? What if they make you think that they're completely available, not in the process of anything, that they're completely available. There is no wife or ex-girlfriend or anybody in the picture. They are available. How do you, as the person dating that person, clue into, what are the clues that you're looking for that, hey, this person might be married, besides the obvious, a wedding ring, which I'm sure they would take off anyway. So what you look for, a little tan line. What are you looking for?
You're looking for an erratic schedule.
Okay.
That's what you're looking for, because a married person has to put in a certain amount of time to answer to either their wife or their husband. So when your boyfriend or girlfriend is not showing up to significant events that you're holding because, I got called into work. Well, like you're getting called into work on a Sunday when I'm having my nephew or niece's birthday party.
Right.
These are not things that people will do. Something that sometimes it comes across as inconsideration. Hey, listen, can you pick this thing up for me on your way home from work? Well, I really can't. I got to go here. I got to go there. Oh, come on. Like, what's going on in terms of your schedule that wouldn't allow you to make a side trip here? You've done it before. When a person has such an unpredictable and erratic schedule, and they're not always clear about where they're going or where they're going to be, when you're starting to date, you know what? You don't need to know that. But if you're getting serious, if you're going to make some kind of commitment or
even a dating commitment, even if it doesn't have to be.
Exactly. Then the person should have an idea as to where you are. And the fact is that if you can monitor an erratic schedule and say, look, you haven't been here, you just can't show up sometimes, you don't give me a reason, what's going on? Where are you?
And how come you can only speak to me at night? And how come we never see each other on the weekends? And
yeah.
And how come you never invite me over to your house?
That's a big one. When somebody doesn't want you to come over, it's dirty. Give me a break.
Right,
okay?
Right.
It doesn't matter how dirty somebody's apartment is. If they want to hook up and be with you, they'll bring you over regardless of how dirty it is.
Right.
If they don't want you coming over, they're hiding something. Going to your own home is the best possible option when you're dating somebody, so you don't have to spend money on a motel or someplace else.
Right.
Look at that erratic schedule. Look at where they're not taking you and why. And those are the signs that you're probably dating someone who's married. Now, with that said, if you have suspicions that the person you're with is married, there's two things you can do. Ask a direct question. Look, I want to know, yes or no, are you married? There are some people who take the attitude of, if I'm asked and put on the spot directly, I'll admit it, but if I'm not asked, I won't tell. There are people who do that.
Right, the don't ask, don't tell people.
The second thing is that you can use what I call the setup. This is where you actually pretend you're okay with something just to see if the other person will admit to it.
Mm-hmm.
If you go in...
A little manipulative, but towards a good...
you only do this if you're absolutely suspicious and saying,
right.
okay, there's something going on here. Because that suspicion is going to destroy the relationship anyway.
Right.
We can't go on together with suspicious minds.
No. Well, there's no trust then, right?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So you go in there with the setup of, look, I think you're married. Okay, and I got no problem with it. If that's the case, it's not a deal breaker for me, but at least let me know so that I can plan my week here. If the manipulator believes, so it's not a deal breaker, yeah, well, actually, I'm kind of seeing somebody. I'm actually engaged, but not married. Whatever the case is. Mm-hmm. At least because they felt there was no consequence, they'll be honest. If you go in and say, look, if you're married or involved with somebody else, it's over, you're not giving the manipulator any reason to be honest. Not that the manipulator wants to be honest anyway.
Right. Not if they want to continue getting some or whatever, being with you. You're just giving them another reason to keep lying.
Exactly. But if you come in and say, it's not really that big a deal, just let me know so I can at least be on the up and up and we can properly arrange things, see what happens. If they admit to it, now you know and you have to make a decision. What's really sad is that when some people find out they've been manipulated and turns out that the person they're dating is married, what do?
They stay.
They stay. This is why if you truly want to be impervious to the powers of a manipulator, set your boundaries and stick to them.
Yeah, stick to them. That's the key. That's really the key. 514-790-0991. You can text at 514-800. We're talking about how to spot a manipulator, how not to get played in the dating world. This is Dating Dilemmas on Passion, right here on CJAD 800.
You're listening to Passion with Dr. Lori Petito on CJAD 800.
Lies, that's all I ever get from you. Cheers.
Dating Dilemmas tonight on Passion. We're talking about lies. We're talking about manipulators, liars and manipulators, how to spot them, how to get away from them. What are your stories? 514-790-0991, or you can text at 514-800. Hi, Nellie. Welcome to the show.
Yes, hi.
Hi.
The conversation is very interesting, and I would like to say something about my past experience. I dated somebody a few years back, and he was married, and I didn't know that. So
how did you find out?
How he was playing a game. He would invite me to his house, and he would take off all the pictures in the house with his wife, and I would be, seeing him. I saw him. I was meeting him for 1 year, and he would do the same routine each time I would meet him at his place.
Where was his wife when you were going to his house?
At work. I didn't know that, and he told me that was his sister.
That his sister lived with him?
Yes, he told me that was his sister, his cousin's sister. So
wow.
I just wanted to speak to you about this because it's very important for women out there to know, even like the younger generation, they should know who they're dating and who they're talking to. And if they're lying, how to catch them lying. So one day, he forgot to take the pictures off of the wall.
Huh. Okay.
And then that's how I caught him.
And
all the pictures, wedding pictures. He would do that all the time. And one day I caught him, and people would actually tell me he's married. And I would ask him, and he would say, "No, I'm not married." And one day, I really had to catch him this way when he didn't take the pictures off.
And when you said to him, "Excuse me, who's this, and why is there a wedding picture?" What was his reaction?
He would just simply say, "No, it's not true. It's not true. It's fake. It's fake." He even once mentioned to me that he got married for the immigration. So he wanted to help out his cousin. So imagine I had to go through so much. That was when I was 18 years old. But I learned my lesson. I learned it the hard way, although other people had told me. But it's always very important to listen to what others have to say. If they know something, you should listen. And you should be more aware of it. And don't get manipulated by the person you're dating.
Right. Well,
don't get played.
That's exactly what we're talking about, why we're talking about it tonight, because of experiences like you've had. And imagine for a whole year, you thought this guy, was into you and was actually married.
A couple of things here, Nellie. When the people came up to you and said he's married, before you dismissed it, did you ever ask them for some evidence?
Well, I did. And he would always tell me, well, the thing is that I wanted to help out my sister, my cousin's sister.
Okay.
And she's like a sister. Why would I marry my cousin, I wanted to help her. out to bring her to Canada.
But
That's
the question
why
is,
we're playing this game. I don't know. I didn't understand that. I was quite young, though.
So he told you it was a game. So he didn't actually lie to you about being married. He just lied to you about the context of the marriage. Okay.
Exactly. But then it was still a game, right? He was playing that game with me, and yet they were in a relationship, and which I didn't know of.
Right.
So when you're younger, you don't realize these things. But even now,
sometimes when you're older, my dear, not just sometimes when you're older, you don't realize these things either.
You're right.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
Yeah,
thank you so much for sharing this topic with us, and thank you for letting me share my story.
Well, thank you for sharing your story.
It does change a lot when you actually talk about these things. Other women hear it too. Even men hear it too.
Yes, I totally agree with you, and that's why we do it. Exactly why we do it. Nellie, thank you so much for having the courage and to call us and
it took me
share.
a lot of courage.
I know. I'm glad you did. I'm really glad you did, Nellie. All right, take care.
You too. Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye-bye.
514-790-0991. Coming up, an interesting text message about online dating, which we'll share and Frank will answer. That's coming up next here on the program. You're listening to Passion on CJAD 800.
You're listening to Passion with Dr. Lori Bettito on CJAD 800.
Dating Dilemmas. Once a month, Frank Kermit joins us at franktalks.com. He's Montreal's #1 dating coach and here to answer your questions. 514-790-0991, 514-800 if you want to text us. Hello, Mr. Kermit. Off topic. I'm on a few dating websites, but have yet to see any results. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. If I sent you a link to my profile, do you think you could tell me what I'm doing wrong? Isn't this the kind of coaching you do, Frank?
Exactly. And usually when it comes to those type of profiles, when I do coaching of this nature, I'll read a few lines at a time and I'll point out, okay, these are the emotional needs that you're violating or being neutral on. You think maybe you're being funny, you're being entertaining, when maybe you're just coming across as a little bit needy and creepy. It really depends on what you're talking about. So build a few, here's some tips, okay? In your profile, build the type of future that you can have the other person envision living with you.
Mm-hmm.
And don't just tell me about, well, this is what I'm looking for. Tell me about what it is you offer. Tell me what you're passionate about. Give me an idea as to the type of life you want to build. Don't just tell me, well, these are my interests. Okay, well, you know what? I don't have to have the same interests as you in order to be in a relationship with you.
That's right.
But I do need to know that you can feel about things the way I feel about things, even if those things are different.
That we value the same, that our values are in the same direction.
Exactly. So yes, I can definitely look at your profile and give you some comments on it.
All right. So for coaching, just go to franktalks.com and you can contact Frank there. And this is right up your alley in terms of the kind of dating coaching that you do. And I think a lot of people have questions about that, is not knowing what their profile should look like and how to make a profile that stands out and, maybe doesn't attract the bad stuff, but maybe the good stuff. I don't know. Just a couple more, Frank, a couple more signs that you may be dating a manipulator, a liar, the ones to watch out for, to run away from.
Sure.
What are some important ones?
People who brag about the way they punished an ex.
An ex, really, huh?
People, if they're doing that, then you're dealing with definitely a liar, a manipulator, because they're taking happiness and joy out of really punishing someone. So that's, if you're getting some pleasure out of that, that's a red flag.
And also they're going to do that to you.
Essentially. People with entitlement issues.
Mm-hmm.
People who feel, look, I'm entitled to this because,
because I'm so great.
Because I'm so great. I demand unconditional love. This is a really big issue. If you're dating a man-child or a princess, you're in trouble. Forget it. Love is not unconditional in a relationship.
It is
for your
conditional.
kids, yes, unconditional love. And if you're looking for a parental figure in a relationship, big red flag. Calling someone on their bad behavior evokes cries of anguish. How could you say that to me? Well, don't embarrass me in public like that. You go ahead and you just contradict me and you put me down. Rather than the person saying, listen, I'm sorry. I didn't realize I was upsetting you. I was trying to have fun. How could you say that to me? I'm going to be angry. And this type of thing. If every time you get assertive, if the other person reacts as if you're abusing them, walk away. Just walk away. Someone who's gender hating, a woman who constantly talks about how much she hates men, a man who talks about how much he hates women.
Well, they wouldn't be so obvious as hating women. It would just be a lot of comments that would...
Anything that would come across as misogyny or misandry, this is where you see some definitely big flags. Constantly putting you down. I know one story of a guy who would hold up a mirror to his girlfriend's face in the morning and make a disparaging remark like, look at what I have to deal with every morning.
That's horrible.
It's horrible, but it undermines somebody's self-esteem.
And over time, it really rips it to shreds.
Absolutely. And another sign you're dating a manipulator or a liar, you're constantly walking on eggshells.
Yes, that's a big
one. You've come to the point where you don't feel you can say or do anything. You're constantly walking on eggshells because you don't want to disrupt the status quo.
Or you don't want to piss him off or her off, or you don't want to trigger them, and you don't want to trigger a reaction.
Okay? That's an emotional manipulator.
That's a very important one, by the way. If you feel like you are walking on eggshells, that is, to me, the biggest red flag there is. There's so much more to talk about this, right? But I only have so much time. Of course, if you need to talk to Frank, just get in touch with him directly at franktalks.com. He'll be happy to help you out there.
Listen to Passion with Dr. Lori Bettito, live weeknights 10 to 11 on CJAD and CJAD.com.
LetYourSpiritGrow.com presents The Mystic Art of Reading Your Tarot Cards. Love, money, career, and travel. I'm Jade, a certified spiritual coach, ready to guide you in reading your tarot cards right now. Call Jade at 514-680-3278. That's 514-680-FAST. Fast. LetYourSpiritGrow.com. It's all you have to do.
Need help with love, sex, dating, and relationship issues? Help from Frank Kermit, the best-selling author and Canada's most international relationship coach, is only a click away at franktalks.com. Coaching available in person, by phone, and by Skype. For singles, couples, and alternative lifestyles, franktalks.com.
Need help with love, sex, dating, and relationships? Visit franktalks.com.